How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family is one of them videos. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a long video. And I'm telling you, these folks, the enemy and the enemy supporters, are the gift that keep giving. I mean, the dynamics that we see in America is amazing, but not shocking. So, y'all know I repeat myself a lot here on the True Royal Family or True Royal. And we're going to focus tonight on the enemy's woman. And she has been rearing her head real strong. And her fears are coming out. Her man is not protecting her adequately. I know they having those type of discussions in their household. There's a lot going on in the universe. So now we seeing the enemy's woman very emboldened, willing. She's doing this on her own accord. Even the woman that got killed in the riot, you know, they tried to make her out as a martyr, but it didn't stick. They tried to hide it, but I found it. She had an extensive criminal record. Yeah, a lot of people were putting restraining orders on her. She living in Southern California, and people living in Maryland and D.C., they got restraining orders against that woman that was killed. Now, there are people that are new, my royal family, so I must repeat myself because I don't know who's stepping in so they can get the bigger picture as we go on this journey. It's been about 4 years now, my royal family. I get visions. I don't get them in my sleep. I can just be going about my day, and it's clear as day. Yah said that the white woman would be the first to get his wrath, and that does not exclude her man because he upheld her shit, point blank. And I remember one time I was on Lisa's channel, and out the blue I said, we will start seeing the white woman wail in the streets of America, just like we have heard the black woman wail because they didn't kill one of our male family members. But now, the space and time we in, they killing us all. We are literally watching Babylon fall. You know, I was thinking the other night, and I still consider myself fairly young. I'm in my mid-50s. I remember when it wasn't no crack. I remember when it was no AIDS. That you can live long enough that you'll see a new drug pop up, a new disease pop up. Now you're doing some living, you know, and there's people far older than me with all their faculties that could present things to us. You know, we often hear the statement, nothing is new under the sun. So as we go on this journey, I'm not reading nothing tonight, but these videos that I pulled up for the royal family paints a picture of what's really going on. And like I said, these next series of videos I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to be laughing and joking. I'm going to hit you in the gut. I'm going to keep it raw and juicy like I always do. So, see what's going on with Becky. Okay, so reporters said she was threatened with she was threatening people with arrest after trying to ask Marjorie Taylor Greene a question basically at a town hall meeting, and she feeling threatened So a reporter can't even ask you any questions. Okay, let's get deeper into this.
QAnon says she was invited to watch President Trump accept his nomination in person. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Republican candidate in Georgia's 16th congressional district. She says she'll be at the White House for Thursday's event. Greene has drawn recent scrutiny not only over her ties to QAnon, but also for past racist, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic social media posts. Greene is not the only candidate running this fall who has supported QAnon before. Axios reports nearly a dozen GOP congressional nominees have ties to the conspiracy theory. For more, let's bring in CNET senior producer Dan Patterson. He's reported extensively on QAnon. Hello again, Dan. Give us some context here to begin with. We mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. Are Democrats also picking up on this theory?
Well, the origins of QAnon are almost inherently tied to President Trump and Republican politics. Let's look at the name itself. The Q in QAnon allegedly stands for Q-level clearance. That's what the Department of Energy used to designate as those who had access to nuclear weapons.
Just to let y'all know, my royal family, the letter Q is the 17th letter in the alphabets. As we continue on.
And this individual allegedly was very close to President Trump. Some believers of QAnon believe that it was President Trump, left messages on the 4chan message board. And so when we look at the history of what they call Q drops, these are messages from Q, this individual, that have spanned a number of years now. They are all lockstep with President Trump's policies, sometimes repeating some of his rhetoric or attempting to foreshadow some of his behavior. So while there may be Democrats, there may be those on the left of the aisle who are attracted to QAnon, the conspiracy itself has really originated from the Trump administration and is closely, almost inherently tied to President Trump, not just Republican politics, but Trump politics.
Well, are there some common themes between the QAnon supporting candidates and their platforms?
Yeah, there are. So it would be a mistake to say that QAnon has policy objectives like a similar grassroots effort, the Tea Party movement, although there are some parallels. The Tea Party movement started as a very small and niche movement, and it expanded rapidly. QAnon, however, doesn't really have policy objectives. However, they do have a number of beliefs. One of their beliefs is, they're in support of the wall. A number of their followers are Christian or call themselves born-again Christians and have come to President Trump through the endorsement of other born-again Christians. So we see that there are some thematic elements that are similar between the rhetoric that President Trump uses and the rhetoric that QAnon followers use, but the group is also metastasizing and evolving so rapidly that it would be really hard to pin them down and say these 2 or 3 or 4 items are precisely what the group stands for.
Well, as we mentioned yesterday, neither the president nor his chief of staff would disavow QAnon when directly asked to. Both men pleaded ignorance about the organization. Now that he is inviting Greene to the White House, how do you think a public embrace of Greene by President Trump could help spread QAnon further?
It's seen absolutely as an endorsement. Look, when we take a look at the actual language that QAnon uses and has been using leading up to and during the Republican convention, they do see this as an endorsement. This is the president dog whistling or telling the organization that, hey, look, I back you and I support you, or at least I back and support people who are like you. And like any good dog whistle, he doesn't have to come out and say this, which gives him some sort of deniability. But look, Q followers routinely ask us, journalists who cover them, to, air quotes, ask the question, meaning ask President Trump whether he believes in QAnon or not, knowing that he will disavow them, but also stand behind candidates and individuals who support the conspiracy. So it's kind of an amorphous group of people who follow
the president and kind of change as he changes. Well, there are some Republicans who have disavowed Marjorie Taylor Greene and QAnon. Congressman Adam Kinzinger spoke to our Nancy Cordes about why he is doing that. Let's listen.
I have the people on Twitter now telling me I created ISIS with John McCain.
Do you think that's why more Republicans don't speak out, because they're worried about the attacks they will get online?
You know, I can't speak for everyone, but I certainly think there are some that are concerned about that.
What are some potential consequences if political leaders don't forcefully speak out against QAnon?
Look, not disavowing QAnon means that you allow the organization to grow, or that you do tacitly condone what they are doing. And look, QAnon is violent, and they do attack individuals both. I mean, they've been linked to violent attacks, a number of incidents, including Christchurch, El Paso. One QAnon follower threatened to blow up the Hoover Dam. So QAnon is linked to violence. So there could be fear of threats of violence or acts of violence, but not disavowing them and the consequences of not disavowing them right now in this particular Republican Party is almost, or appears to be almost, equivalent to an endorsement of the organization.
All right.
Dan Patterson for us.
He pussyfooting. It ain't almost. What they are saying, my royal family, is that they are tired of hiding. And some of them are conscious, but not all of them are fully conscious. But in their conscious, you seeing the enemy have concerns. Like I said again and again, and I think I said this 5 years ago, I said we will see crowds of people throughout the world. Some of them just aimlessly just walking in the crowd. They don't even know why. And I said we would see it in biblical proportions. And the beautiful thing about Trump being the president, all the stuff that the royal family been talking about, he brought it to the surface. So they feel emboldened. His woman wants that throne. To hell with being barefoot and pregnant. That's what her man wants. So there's a lot of meaning under that hat, make America great again. Oh yeah, it's a lot of meaning. But she I still keep seeing she's a barren bitch. She has no value in her community because she can't produce. And she's feeling some kind of way, and she's going to be acting out more and more. We seeing them up here making videos, crying and all of that. They got all kind of methods that they use. But this is to intimidate. We already know what time it is. As we continue on with this next video. Now, this nutcase, what we're going to see next is this is a video that surfaced up where she attacked one of, now he's a young man, he was a teenager at the time when Parkland had that shooting at that high school. I mean, that was bad. I'll never forget that. And so you will find some Republicans be on this conspiracy theory shit. But let's watch her in action.
Out front tonight, the party of QAnon. Tonight, the Republican Party is doubling down and giving credence to a group that is a megaphone for dangerous and deadly conspiracy theories. Most of the 211 of House Republicans are silent tonight over Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's past comments supporting the execution of prominent Democratic politicians. Instead, Greene, a QAnon supporter, has been given a seat on the Education and Labor Committee. And that should alarm everyone, all of us. For one, she tried to make a name for herself by suggesting the 2018 massacre at the high school in Parkland, Florida was a false flag. In other words, a planned event to kill kids. And then posted this video in March 2019, where she is seen confronting a survivor of that shooting, student David Hogg.
David, why are you supporting the red flag laws? If Scott Peterson, the resource officer at Parkland, had done his job, then Nicholas Cruz wouldn't have killed anybody in your high school, or at least protected them. Why are you supporting red flag gun laws that attack our Second Amendment rights? And why are you using kids as a barrier? Do you not know how to defend your stance? Someone walking. He's got nothing to say. Sad. He has nothing to say because there really isn't anything to say, you guys. He has nothing to say because he's paid to do this. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen. And I have nothing, but this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything. I want you to think about that. That's where we are. And he's a coward. He can't say one word because he can't defend his stance.
So that was Marjorie Taylor Greene going after a teenager who lost 14 classmates in a horrific school shooting. Tonight, in an unapologetic statement to CNN, she says, I was going from office to office in the Senate to oppose the radical gun control agenda that David Hogg was pushing. Well, now Greene has been validated by the Republican Party, promoted by the Republican Party, placed on an education committee. And that's not all there is from Greene, by the way. I just want to be clear. If you're not familiar with her, you should be familiar, given how she's being promoted now, with her extensive track record in the land of conspiracy.
It's odd. There's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon. There is an Islamic invasion into our government offices.
Never any evidence of a plane flying into the Pentagon. This person is now a sitting member of Congress with a position on the Education Committee, put there by Republican leadership. And then there's comments unearthed by our own K-File, comments like, quote, the stage is being set, players are being put in place, we must be patient. That comment responding to a comment about hanging former President Obama. And that comment actually forced the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to respond. Well, I want to be clear, actually, it was his spokesperson who responded. The spokesperson says, quote, these comments are deeply disturbing and Leader McCarthy plans to have a conversation with the Congresswoman about them. Well, we don't know when that conversation is going to happen. Maybe McCarthy is putting it off until he's back from Florida because he's heading there tomorrow to meet with former President Trump. Perhaps he's still trying to make up to get back in Trump's good graces because remember, he blamed Trump for the deadly insurrection and then backtracked and said that his comments had nothing to do with it. So while McCarthy's office calls Greene's comments deeply disturbing, the House Minority Leader is about to go and meet with a former president who, by the way, has not only embraced QAnon, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, right here from Northwest Georgia. Oh, boy, I don't want to mess with her. No, she's great.
This one, I never, ever want to have her as my enemy. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Where is she? She is so unbelievable. Also joining us tonight are Georgia representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene. I love Marjorie.
So Trump says he loves Marjorie. And Trump and Greene are also in lockstep when it comes to the lie that Trump told the world, right? The lie that inspired his followers to attack the U.S. Capitol.
Make no mistake, this election was stolen from you, from me, and from the country. We won in a landslide. This was a landslide.
We aren't going to let this election be stolen by Joe Biden and the Democrats. President Trump won by a landslide.
The Republican Party right now is the party of Trump, and Trump's big lie about the election being stolen is a core tenet of QAnon. And for those Republicans who want to still hope that this is just going to go away, it isn't. QAnon is not going anywhere. It's coast to coast. In Arizona, the Republican Party voted Saturday to censor Cindy McCain and two other prominent Republican officials because they crossed Trump. In Oregon, the state Republican Party is buying into the conspiracy theory that the Capitol riot was a false flag. In this case, false flag meaning an attack that was engineered by Trump's opponents to make him look bad. And in Virginia, the leading Republican gubernatorial candidate, Amanda Chase, who calls herself Trump in heels, said the attack on the U.S. Capitol was justified and said this about the rioters.
The people I met were patriots who loved their country and drove from as far away as California to witness history, which they hope would be overturning of the election results.
This is the kind of thinking and talking that the Republican Party is embracing by its silence and by putting people who say the election was stolen on committees. And they're playing with fire. We all saw what happened at the Capitol. And now the Department of Homeland Security issuing a bulletin this week warning of more potential violence from domestic extremists who may be emboldened by that attack.
So, what's going on, my royal family, is that Esau...
About Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Let me stop that for a second. So what's going on, my royal family, is that Esau is in fear, and now they want to intimidate others, but the biggest problem that they're having is, and it came out of Nancy Pelosi's mouth, she don't know who to trust. See, what messed them up was with that big riot they had, all kinds showed up. All kinds. And they are tripping off of, oh, this person is a CEO. So you tripping off of whatever their title is, that they don't have these type of views. So they're trying to say, if because they always pride themselves on that IQ crap, that the higher your IQ, you wouldn't even disgrace yourself and go out and riot and shit and piss all over the state capitol. We're going to keep it core over here, my royal family. Oh yeah, we're going to keep it real core. Now, I didn't intend to play this video because I have the entire press conference, and y'all know I'd rather show that opposed to this, so we're going to take this one down. I ain't going to miss anything.
Watching different video feeds of...
But before we get into Nancy Pelosi's video, some of us has probably seen this, and the reason why I'm showing it, I want to hear what the enemy have to say about their own, because this is not a good look. Because in this war, this multi-level war that we are involved in, we can learn some things from the enemy and the enemy's supporters. So we got about 6 minutes, a little over 6 minutes of this.
Of the attempt to storm the Capitol building on Wednesday. Part of me was reacting as an American would react when you see one of the most important American institutions being desecrated like that. And then the other reaction for me as an expert on, extremism and political violence and that sort of thing, was more analytical. I was looking, at people's basic dress. How many people there were dressed in normal civilian clothes versus how many people were dressed in military style gear or had brought things that indicated they were there for a fight. At least one person brought a shield with them, indicating that they were willing to engage in street fighting. 2 people seemed to have brought zip ties, which suggests they were interested in possibly abducting people. I was looking at the flags that people were flying or the banners. Some of these were totally innocuous. A bunch of people brought state flags. It's hard to know exact proportions, but let's say half of them were what you could call pro-Trump extremists, people who really bought into the personality cult of Donald Trump and believed any conspiracy theories that he or his supporters wanted to promote. And then there were also a mix of a wide variety of people from fringe and extremist movements and groups, including anti-government extremists, QAnon believers.
Takeaway for me is the degree to which your bread and butter GOP supporter who fills out rallies seem to be intermingling with extreme far-right factions, people who believe there is no political solution at all.
I also saw symbology associated with the militia movement. I saw the 3% symbol. I saw the Oath Keepers logo. That was what was helping me understand the nature of the different people who had come there.
The very onset of Trump's political career, when he first announced his run, we saw these very soft barriers between the white supremacists that overtly supported Trump and the mainstream GOP. What it looked like to me is a moment where those soft barriers have been eroded to such a degree that they no longer exist anymore.
If you don't get the right answer today, you come back with your rifle.
The Don't Tread on Me flag is also known as the Gadsden flag. And this is a traditional historical patriotic flag that originated during the Revolutionary era and has been used ever since in the United States. Often as a symbol against tyranny. Notice that Don't Tread on Me, it's basically rising up against some sort of tyrannical authority. People on the right, historically, they tend to try to appropriate imagery from the American Revolution to show that they are patriotic. And so, for example, 10 years ago, the Tea Party unofficially adopted the Don't Tread on Me Gadsden flag, and it became extremely common for Tea Party supporters to fly that flag. Of course, the Tea Party faded away, but most of those people went in and became Trump supporters. And so it's not surprising that you would find Trump supporters flying that flag too.
I'm here to stop the steal.
The Confederate flag, which has most resonance as a symbol of racism, it's pretty common for people on the right to have the Confederate flag, trying to use it as a good old boys flag or as a resistance against political correctness, or by people who are, racist. The green flag is the Kekistan flag. Kekistan flag is a joke country created by members of the online forum 4chan.
This is what you can see here. This is the symbol of 4chan. These little 4 clovers.
Kekistan is a country for a joke god that they created, Kek. First they created Kek the god, then Kek the country, and then of course if there was Kek the country, they had to create a joke flag for the joke country. So it's basically associated with people from the 4chan subculture. The 3% flag in that image combines the 3% logo with the Betsy Ross flag, which is a traditional historical flag. They argue, incorrectly, but they argue that only 3% of American colonists took up arms to fight the British during the American Revolution, but they won liberty for everybody. And that 3%ers are the modern American equivalent of those 3% of colonists. Only this time they're not fighting British tyranny, but American tyranny. I saw quite a bit of QAnon imagery as well as different slogans associated with QAnon. QAnon is essentially this huge conspiracy-focused movement centered around sort of a worship of Donald Trump.
Ashley Babbitt, who has become a martyr figure among far-right extremists already, allegedly trafficked in the QAnon conspiracy theory. We saw a poll, I believe, in the run-up to the 2020 election that showed roughly half of Trump's voters believe some elements of the QAnon conspiracy theory.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
And when you have people presenting information that is not accurate, but that is meant to sensationalize, to sort of draw out these very strong emotions in people, you tell them repeatedly that you're in the middle of a situation where there is no political solution and that we are in the middle of a civil war. They're going to believe it over time.
What we've already seen now, just a lot of people trying to excuse why they were there, to rationalize why they were there.
Did he tell us to be here?
He encouraged us to be here, to support our country.
Exactly.
To acknowledge that they were there, but say they did not support the violence that occurred there.
Out there making our voices heard, and then they start throwing tear gas.
I think it's a real failing of social media to understand what exactly they have been creating.
Let's tell Trump what's up.
When you isolate people on these fringe platforms like DLive and Parler, the temperature of the rhetoric goes up.
Woo! Hell yeah! Let's go. Dude, we're in the Capitol right now.
I think it's important to realize that there's essentially developing a new form of extremism, a sort of a nascent extremist movement of pro-Trump extremists who basically have adopted a cult of personality around Trump. But at this point, one can't just simply say there are mainstream Trump supporters and then there are these extremists, militia, white supremacists, or whatever, because some of those Trump supporters are no longer mainstream. They have become an extreme movement of themselves.
Well, I really like that video because, he could, through the cluster, he know his folks. I don't care about what group it is. They all one in the same. All one in the same. So, she's dangerous. Oh, yes. And she got her a position in D.C. And Nancy Pelosi is past piss. It's been a lot going on. Her office didn't been broke in. They didn't stole shit from her. They didn't, again, shitted and pissed all over the state capitol. And on a side note, my royal family, I forgot who emailed it to me, but yesterday I got an email. They said 38 cops up there in D.C. got Rona. Rona about their life. Oh, yeah. And there will be more to come. See, when they go out and do their thing now, Rona posted out there in them streets. So you're going to pay. Some going to pay for not staying separate and being obedient. I mean, I'm telling you, Rona is the gift to keep giving. It's sad what's going on, but when you look at the bigger picture of things, you can see it is actually protecting us too, in a great sense, because these people are in a certain state. They're losing. They're not used to losing, and they know who they are losing to, you know, and they feeling some kind of way. But you see how his woman get down? Oh, she wants to go guns a-blazing. You know? You ain't producing shit. Most likely you're going to end up killing your own. So your thinking is really messed up. So, let's hear what Nancy Pelosi has to say.
Good morning, everyone. This month of January is a month of memorable Wednesdays, as you know. On January 6th, Wednesday, January 6th, our nation witnessed one of the worst assaults on our democracy and our Constitution in the history of the Republic. The following Wednesday, the House impeached Donald Trump for inciting the insurrection that week before. In just 1 week, he was impeached. And the Wednesday after that, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were inaugurated as President and Vice President of the United States. History making in so many respects. Yesterday on Wednesday, we celebrated the 1 week since the inauguration. In that 1 week, President Biden, starting on day one, President Biden and Vice President Harris have driven a bold agenda for progress and for justice, issuing transformative executive actions ranging from crushing the coronavirus, equity, racial equity in so many ways, and again, addressing the climate crisis. Legislatively, those are executive orders. Legislatively, we have been working. I'm very proud of our committees who are diligently working on the coronavirus release legislation as a basis for reconciliation, should that be needed. We will pass a reconciliation bill under leadership in our House of John Yarmouth, Mr. Sanders in the Senate. We will pass a reconciliation bill if we need it. We would hope that we would have bipartisan cooperation to meet the needs of the American people in terms of their health, in terms of distribution in an equitable way of the vaccine, continue with testing, tracing, treatment, etc., but also to meet their economic needs. So we would hope that, but we're not taking any tools off the table, should they not. While our committees are advancing this reconciliation legislation, at the same time the executive actions continue. Today's executive action will open up the ACA's enrollment period and take additional steps to expand health care. We're very excited about that because, of course, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and we see this as a matter of life and death. It's very different from the Trump administration, who fought the Affordable Care Act, still don't have the verdict from this Supreme Court to destroy the lifeline for affordable, quality health care for all Americans. So we're very excited about that particular health care initiative today, in addition to the others that the President has put forth in relationship to the coronavirus. Again, we are preparing for the impeachment. Well, we have impeached the president, but we're preparing for the case. I'm very proud of our managers, led by Jamie Raskin, our distinguished array of managers, working very hard. They continue to prepare for a trial before 100 jurors, members of the United States Senate. This trial is about the protection of the Constitution and the preservation of our republic. We will insist upon the integrity and fairness of the proceedings, recognizing the role that the Senate plays in all of this. No one is above the law, not even a president of the United States, and Trump must be tried and convicted to ensure that no future president will ever think it's okay to incite insurrection, to stop the ascertainment of who the next president of the United States will be by falsely inflaming people falsely about the outcome of the election. In that regard, in terms of security, which is what we do, protect and defend the Constitution, security, protect the American people, our very first responsibility. And when they come to the Capitol, whether to work as a legislator, a staffer, a journalist, whatever, we want people to be safe. Later today, I'll be meeting with General Honore, Russell Honore, who's leading a security review of the Capitol complex. Updates on the timing, scope, and details will be forthcoming. Protecting the Capitol is a matter of protecting our democracy, and the House will not be distracted or delayed from our work that we are doing, again, to crush the virus, to meet the economic needs of the American people, and to do so in a way that is fair and just. Any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask you about Marjorie Taylor Greene. How concerned are you about her past posts, remarks, rhetoric? What would you like to see done about her?
What I'm concerned about is the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, who is willing to overlook, ignore those statements, assigning her to the Education Committee when she has mocked the killing of little children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when she has mocked the killing of teenagers in high school at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. What could they be thinking, or is thinking too generous a word for what they might be doing? It's absolutely appalling, and I think that the focus has to be on the Republican leadership of this House of Representatives for the disregard they have for the death of those children. They not only are they not interested in gun safety and gun violence prevention by passing legislation for background checks legislation, which is overwhelmingly supported in a bipartisan way in the country, but to have someone who would mock, call it a fake, if those fake events onto the is just beyond. It's just beyond any understanding of any regard that the House Republicans would have for the House of Representatives, for the Congress of the United States, and for the heartbreak of the families in Sandy Hook and at Marjorie Stoneman High School. It really, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, it's really beyond the pale. You're just going to have to ask them why they thought that that raised itself to the level of something appropriate to do in the Congress of the United States. Yes, sir.
Just a point of clarity on the stimulus. Are you going to bring a budget resolution next week to the House floor to start that?
Yes. We're going to bring a budget resolution to the floor next week, and then it will send it over to the Senate. Then if they change it, then we'll take it back and address it. By the end of the week, we will be finished with the budget resolution, which will be about reconciliation, if needed. I hope we don't need it, but if needed, we will have it.
One more question. Does Congress have any role in this GameStop stock manipulation issue that's going on in Wall Street right now?
Well, I understand. Interesting, isn't it? I understand that the administration is taking a look. The SEC is taking a look at what that is. But we'll all be reviewing it. But interesting. It's interesting, yeah. A completely different, you had two questions. That was not considered a follow-up, would you say? Yes, sir.
Just a follow-on security. You've had 30-plus members of the House send you and the Minority Leader a letter asking for more money for security. You have members who are worried about not only their safety at the Capitol, but when they go back to their home districts. You have a member who has talked about executing you. You got a security bulletin yesterday from DHS about ongoing domestic violence threats. What are you saying to your members about protecting themselves, and what can be done for them to feel safe?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the letter from the members, but most of the questions, the items on their list have already been done. Perhaps they were not aware, and I take responsibility for them not being aware in terms of use of their MRA funds and some of the other issues that are in there. Today, when I meet with General Honore, he is looking at members here, members at home, and in between. So we want to have a scientific approach to how we protect members. I do believe, and I have said this all along, that we will probably need a supplemental for more security for members when the enemy is within the House of Representatives, a threat that members are concerned about.
Now this is where it gets deep, my royal family. I ain't never heard the enemy speak on this level. We speak on this level because we got these damn coons that go over to the other side and spill their guts and tell our business. That's why I said, which y'all already know, we are in a multi-level war. Now we're seeing the war within the world of Esau as they become the tail. I mean, this stuff is historical. Believe it or not, it's biblical what's going down. So they have a grave concern. This is not surprising to us. We already knew. We already spoke on it very long ago. But now it's playing itself out on the world stage. That Esau, we're going to make it official now. They can't trust each other. You know, y'all really on the Late Show. Y'all never could trust each other. You know, and like I said, we done came full circle. Full circle. And Esau always got their nose in our affairs. You know, I often talk about our immediate situation. See, they wasn't taking care of business. You can't watch everything. Okay? Now, y'all done became full circle in your war, so y'all gonna get tenfold what we done got. I mean, it's amazing what's going down. So let's keep listening to this.
In addition to what is happening outside. But I think that, again, what's in that letter, we won't, it's just a matter of communicating to them. That has been done. The MRA, the rest of that. I do think, though, that while it's appropriate that they use their MRA for their security, they shouldn't have to, because that money is there for them to meet the needs of their constituents. In the meantime, to protect themselves and their constituents when they communicate with them, that is confidential, private, and not provocative, but then also for us to have, and that's what we'll be looking at, recommendations from General Honore. Will have some interim report today, and then he'll continue his work as we go forward. But it's very important.
You've been the subject of threats that comes with the job of being Speaker. Many of your members, not necessarily. Some of them feel like they're targets now. What do you say to your caucus, to your fellow House members?
Well, what we're saying is that we're going to approach it in a way that will truly protect them, that the issues they raised in their letter have by and large been in effect. So they may be relieved to hear that. They'll be hearing also from the Sergeant at Arms today, who will, and you'll see his letter talking about how their protection is further enhanced by certain initiatives that were taken. And as I said, General Honore is looking to see what really will work in terms of their service here, their service home, their transportation in between. But
let me stop this for just a bit. So, you got this Becky here openly showing her rifle. She's trying to tell you something, Nancy. You still in that state too as well. You can't trust your own. You just said it. And what you're looking at is basically what that person is saying is that I'm about that life. You know, we can get down funky. To hell with hiding shit. You know, they want to really call us niggas, bitches, boys, girls, and all of that. They ready to, and it's mainly Becky. Because I've seen her man have some type of sense. You know, she's pushing the narrative. And she's getting a rude awakening as I speak. So, you know, she's depending on, Nancy depending on, you know, some inward security, but y'all still ain't dealing with y'all media situation. That's why everybody getting away with what they doing. Shit, Trump's supposed to be up under somebody's jail. Now the Republican Party is like, well, he ain't the president no more. Why are we impeaching him? Well, somebody got to pay the cost for this. Now there's 6 people dead, numerous people injured. You know, I just said that 38 cops so far and tested positive for Rona, and no telling how many people in that crowd have Rona. Oh, it's going to be felt. Ripple effects on this going to be felt big time. So I don't know how much more Nancy Pelosi need as we continue on.
Call to your attention the Sergeant at Arms letter because they'll be more specific about air marshals, etc. But this is very, very important. It shouldn't be that not only is the President of the United States inciting an insurrection, but keeps fanning the flame, endangering the security of members of Congress, to the point that they're even concerned about members in the House of Representatives being a danger to them.
What exactly did you mean when you said that the enemy is within? What exactly did
It
you mean
means
by
that we have members of Congress who want to bring guns on the floor and have threatened violence on other members of Congress. Yes, sir. Second.
Madam Speaker, do you believe that the president can get a fair and complete trial that lasts only 1 week?
Of course, and that's what our system is about. I don't know how long it will take. It depends on the response that he will make, but it will be a fair trial and respectful of the role that the Senate plays now that it goes over to there. Yeah, I do. Yes, sir.
Now, Madam Speaker, on LGBTQ issues, the president campaigned on signing the Equality Act into law within his first 100 days in office. When will you hold a vote on the legislation?
I thank you for that question. This is such an exciting piece of legislation for us. We passed it in the last Congress. No success in the Senate. Went to Mitch McConnell's graveyard, the Grim Reaper. But I'm optimistic about it because I do think we will get strong bipartisan support in the House and in the Senate. We're working with Mr. Cicilline, the author of the bill, for when we will roll it out with him and Mr. Merkley, the senator, and then we will again calendar it. It will be it's an early priority for us, HR 5, and again. It's about ending discrimination. I'm very pleased with what President Biden has done so far, especially pleased about eliminating the prohibition on trans people from serving in the military. That, too, I think was a triumph for decent.
Now, you see how they get down? You hear the excitement in her voice? You know, that first 100 days ain't nothing near but some bullshit. But you see, they pacifically go out of their way to help a particular group. But what they will throw in our face is that we will reap the benefits of whatever this bullshit that Biden is throwing out. All right? But we're not going to lose sight what's going within your world. This Becky is about that life, you know. So I know some people probably thought I was a big time Democrat supporter. I don't support none of these people. They slime balls to me. And then they want to make sure they look out for everybody else. And you got a problem on your doorstep. You see how they get down? Got to really pay attention how the enemy get down. I mean, with Trump becoming president, he opened the doors to a lot of stuff. You know, I learned even more. So as we continue on.
And justice in our country. But some other initiatives that he took about contracting and this or that, it's really, it's amazing that we would even have to do such things, but we're particularly proud of the Equality Act because it's so comprehensive. And again, ending discrimination in the workplace and in every other aspect of life not only is good for the LGBTQ community, for our whole society, but also for the businesses that want the very best. They should be hiring without any concern of complaint about the diversity that they are introducing into their. That's why we think we'll have strong bipartisan support. We think the business community will help us in the Senate. Yeah. One more. Yes, no, I'm sir, I said. Sir?
Thank you, madam.
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that you say reconciliation is a backstop, that you'd rather have a bipartisan bill?
Yes. Always.
But it sounds like you're not optimistic that will happen. Is that a correct?
Well, we have to be ready. I do think that we have more leverage getting cooperation on the other side if they know we have an alternative as well. But I would think if we're talking about additional funding for vaccines to be, not in production, but their distribution, if we're talking about putting money into the pockets of the American people with the direct payments, if we're talking about supporting state and local government so that they're able to implement all these things, open our schools, our healthcare workers, our police and fire, first responders, our teachers, transportation, sanitation, food workers. I would hope that the Republicans would be supportive of that. Many of the localities that will benefit have Republican mayors and Republican county executives. So I would hope that we would be able to do it in a bipartisan way. And again, I've said if there's an argument that needs to be made to people that we need more funding for the vaccines, more distribution resources, more of the vials and syringes and all that make it happen, I think many of the Republicans would be supportive of that, and I hope so. But we cannot not have it happen. We have to act, and that is why I said we want it to be bipartisan always, but we can't surrender if they're not going to be doing that. Instead, we will pass it. Thank you all very much.
All right, my royal family.
Did Vice President Mike Pence come testify?
I thought it was necessary because we picked up some sweet nuggets at that press conference. It's necessary to listen to a full press conference. But my main focus is on this Becky here that's quite emboldened. So let's listen to this last video.
Back at it. I'm Esty Cup. Welcome to Unfiltered. The Marjorie Taylor Greene archives run deep. Last week, I told you that MTG, as we're apparently calling her now, the newly elected QAnon-supporting congresswoman from Georgia, was among Donald Trump's worst legacies, ushered in on his wave of bigotry, ignorance, nativism, and conspiracy theories. And that's because she has peddled some truly awful and untethered ideas. Democrats are Satan-worshipping pedophiles, for example. School shootings were staged. Trump's election was stolen. I warned you last week that the cult of QAnon was coming from inside the House, literally, and that Marjorie was going to be a big problem for Republicans. Well, that was all before we learned the latest on what Marge was up to before she became a United States Congresswoman. This week, CNN's K-File exposed some of her Facebook posts from 2019 and 2018, wherein she expresses support for executing prominent members of the Democratic Party. You heard me right, executing Democrats. In one post, she liked a comment that said a bullet to the head would be quicker to remove Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She liked or replied to comments about executing FBI agents and hanging Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. It's sick stuff, frankly, the kind of stuff that often results in a very unceremonious visit from a couple FBI agents. Also this week, a video of Green harassing a victim of the Parkland school shooting circulated, wherein she accuses the teenager of being a paid actor. In another video, she says the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting was staged by gun control activists. When a reporter tried to ask her about all of this at a town hall this week, she had the reporter removed. But don't worry, guys. Kevin McCarthy, the Republican House Minority Leader, is on it. Rest assured, he finds that kind of rhetoric deeply disturbing and plans to have a conversation with her. So that's solved, right? Wrong. Just yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security said publicly for the first time that the U.S. is facing a growing threat from violent domestic extremists who were emboldened by the attack on the Capitol earlier this month. Emboldened presumably by rhetoric like Marjorie's. Emboldened presumably by the conspiracy theories she helped to spread, the lies she continues to promote. Last weekend, a Texas man was arrested reportedly for illegal gun and ammo possession outside the White House, and after telling a police officer he needed information on the Oval Office. If you were interested in connecting the dots, they are falling at our feet. Instead of disavowing the anti-Semitic, racist, Islamophobic, and plain old crazy conspiracy theories of the unhinged far right, Donald Trump embraced them, gave them comfort over the years, called those people patriots. The unhinged far right fringe grew, emboldened by his support and legitimization. Some Republicans, unwilling to anger the president or his new base of lunatics, ignored the fringe, looked the other way. Other Republicans welcomed them with open arms because, hey, a vote is a vote, right? Told by the party that their imaginary grievances were legit, that their extremist rhetoric was justified, that their anger was directed at the right enemies, the far-right fringe was now a cause. And when Trump lost the election, Republicans like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and Green perpetuated the big lie. The cause got a very specific call to action. We saw it play out in a deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. And since then, the Republican leaders who fomented the frothy fringe don't seem chastened by the near toppling of democracy. Quite the opposite, they seem defensive. Many are doubling down on the lie and hoping to keep in Trump's good graces, even though he lost, and so did Republicans in the House and Senate. Kevin McCarthy is in Florida as we speak, kissing the ring. Now, if you thought the Republicans would self-reflect on the damage Trump did to the country and to their own party, well, you'd be wrong. There's a Democrat in the White House, after all. They will likely only get worse. Case in point, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She might get a talking to by Kevin McCarthy, but don't expect her to go anywhere. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.
Now, that was deep, my royal family. So, what they are dealing with, let me take that down. What they are dealing with is essentially the enemy within. All right? She's showing that she about that life. And there's a lot more. So as the cat is out the bag, literally, they feel so emboldened. These politicians, card carrying, which we already knew. So it has put the enemy in a dilemma. Now, all that stuff that happened on the 6th, if it would have been disproportionately the royal family, it would have been a bloodbath. But see, they see reflections of self, and They got to make those executive decisions because more of this is going to happen. You know, Esau likes to make a name for themselves, and they like to do it on a grand scale. See, you've been lackadaisical with your own people. Y'all can't trust each other. We could have been told y'all that. We know how you get down. We know you from top to bottom. Your woman is a problem. Now, also, what I was thinking about was a few years ago, Lisa Cabrera had put a video out. And the video that she put out was a statistical video that in the United States, more white women are being incarcerated. And I was like, damn, really? And they on the hush-hush. Well, I can see why. And then I got to thinking, damn, her man's so tired of her. 9 times out of 10, he has the money to bail her out. So he dropped the kids off and get his shit and pack and go to another state. Yes, disproportionately in America, there are more white women in jail. That speaks volumes. So, she's the first. And on top of that, of being the first, and she will continue to be the first, she's going to have an experience. Yes. See, it don't always pay to be first. You got to realize she feels entitled. And she's watching Babylon fall too. So it's like, well, where do I fit in at? I ain't getting the chance to get up on that throne. Well, you know what? You have done enough in America that have impacted the royal family. You don't need to get up on the throne because you was always up in your man's ear anyway, doing wicked shit to us. So, well, thank you, honey. So, I lost my train of thought just a bit. So basically, we'll just see how this plays out, my royal family. But this is a clear sign and a clear message that Becky is about that life. She's dangerous. So, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.